Hi, my name's Helen Wilding and I'm an urban sketcher from Melbourne. Urban sketcher means really that I'd like to draw on location, so out in the streets, recording what I can see, and usually in pen and ink and watercolour in my case. I have a long-term project to draw Brunswick Street Fitzroy, which is an inner suburb of Melbourne. I believe it was one of the first suburbs that was acknowledged in Melbourne. So it was starting to be built around the 1850s. Now, before I go any further, I do think it's important to acknowledge that this is a recent urban history that I'm really recording, and that these drawings are made on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people, and I would really like to pay my respects to their ancestors and elders, both past and present. I've put, if you are interested in the Indigenous history of the area, I've put a couple of links on my website because I think that's a story best told by others rather than me. So my project has a couple of areas. One is that I want to draw these really long streetscapes of the facades, and what I've done is I've made a number of accordion sketchbooks out of Bockingford watercolour paper, which I've just discovered. It's lovely. This is a 300 GSM paper. And here you can see this is the first one. So what I started, this has been going for 6 months. So really this is my 6-month report. That we started in Victoria Parade, which is here. And this is the very first building in Victoria Parade. And every Tuesday since January 2019, I've been coming along and drawing generally one building a week for a couple of hours, and usually in pen and ink, and then I might go home later on and add watercolour. So the watercolour's coming way further down the track. It's a bit hard to manage all this and do watercolour neatly at the same time. So, however, I do the sketchbook as well as the watercolour done on location. Anyway, this is the very first building in Brunswick Street. It's sort of called, I think it's called 77 Victoria Parade, in fact. So it goes around the corner. It's had several names over the years, including the Eastern Hill Hotel and Belvedere Hotel. But most importantly, it was where the unions, the very early unions, met when they first tried to fight for the 8-hour day. And that's about 8 hours work, 8 hours rest, and 8 hours sleep. So I personally am very, very grateful that they got together and did that. Anyway, here you go. So I'm just going to move along here. You can see some of these buildings. Now, how amazing is this building here? One of the things that I found really good is that people, as we're sitting outside, people come up to us to talk about the drawings, and then they become interested in looking at what we're looking at as well, and it becomes a real community event, which I'm really enjoying. And this is the Paul House down here. Then on to the next section. So we've had, this is a gallery in here, El Caston Gallery. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. They came out to see what we were doing, what we're drawing. So we often have people popping out either from the buildings we're sitting in front of, or that we're facing and drawing, trying to work out what we're doing. And the feedback has always just been really lovely and supportive, and people are very interested in our viewpoint. I suppose what I focus on is trying to get the feel of the place, not necessarily trying to get it completely accurate. I'm not an architect, and even though people keep talking about me drawing these straight lines, if you have a look closely, you can see they are not at all straight. I actually think that if they were really, really straight ruled lines or something, that it would actually be quite boring. So yes, if I do a wonky line that's really outrageously wonky, I just even it up by doing a wonky line the other way. I do want it to feel like it's drawn, though, and that it's been handled and it's been out on the street. I think that is part of the deal. This has been watercoloured later at home, but I didn't get very far. I've got a lot more to do. When we got to here, the AG and the owner came out too, and he was showing us some of the plans for the area, which was pretty sad, to be quite honest, because I think there's all these some of these buildings and this landscape may well be at risk. So, which was not something I was really thinking about while drawing this, but this is going to become an important part of history, I think. What you'll notice though is that part of this streetscape that I'm doing, I've got a sort of few rules for myself, and one of them is that I really want to highlight the facades. And so I'm not including background. I'm not including buildings that are behind, or cranes, or other skylines. I just want to highlight these facades in Brunswick Street. I am, however, putting some of the little things that are just on the pavement in front of them. If it's in front of the pavement, then I'm not interested. I'm not drawing cars. If a car parks, well, I have been known to ask them to move, which they have. And if they don't, well, you know, they'll move at some point and I'll see it, or I'll get up and I'll walk around, or I might even cross the road and have a look and see what it looks like behind the car and just draw that in. You know, you can tell here I was drawing on the day that rubbish gets collected or the day after. You might also notice that as I'm going along, the seasons are changing because it's been going over 6 months. So what starts as summer trees and spring, you know, we end up with sort of these very bare sticks further down the line as autumn and all the leaves are falling off. As you can tell, I love bright colours. And you can see this is where I've stopped painting for now. I will come back to it. Just a shame that this lovely old building was hidden behind all the hedges and the fences. But I also had a rule that I am sitting at a particular angle on my stool looking across, and so it's what I see from that angle. And so that's the elevation and things too. So things are sort of a bit wonky, that's why. And, you know, I use a lot of artistic license. If it was just about a photo, I could take that in a second, but it wouldn't be much fun. This is the first set of terraces in here. It's called Barcelona Terrace. You can see this building here, and then I got a little bit of a shorthand as we were coming along to try and do the lace. This was easy because there was a big tree in front of it. I had a laugh that there was an auction sign there, and I thought, well, you know, people will be able to date this. They'll be able to come back in 50 years and research when it was on sale by Jallis Craig and find out when I was sitting there drawing it. And here is the, which way? This is the problem with these things, is I don't know which way I've done it. Okay, here we go. So this is the last drawing in the street, so the second big terrace. I ummed and ahed a little bit about whether I should have put these, I'm just going to see if I can rub that out for a second. Oh, maybe not, doesn't matter. The antennas in, but I sort of like that too because it adds that time and place to it, and it did belong to this building. As we were sitting here, people have been coming up and talking to me about, you know, the people who lived in the buildings, or what the sort of the new or the sort of the urban myths about it. We were told that I think this certainly was a dentist in early days. I think it may belong to the university now. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, the French creperie is just around the corner, but apparently it was once a VD clinic. Another time it apparently had archives that were kept in a chicken coop at the back. This one was, I believe, the house where the father of one of my close friends first lived when he immigrated after the war, after the Second World War, from the Ukraine. So there's just so much history and so many stories along here, which I would really love to find out more about. Anyway, so that's the first part of my project. The second part is that I actually want to record more about the life. So the other one's about, it's just about the building and the facade, which they are gorgeous, I love them. But the second bit is more about the people and the life, the trams going past, all those sorts of things. So that's what I'm doing in this sketchbook. And as I've just pretty much finished it, I thought it was a good time to share how that's going as well. So this very first drawing here, I did back in October last year, in 2018. I was caring for my dad, who was very ill, and he lives locally. So when my brother came over, I just went for a walk and took my sketchbook to have a bit of a break. And I sat down in Victoria Parade. There's a tram stop that looks directly down Brunswick Street. And I was really trying to work out at the time you know, what am I knew I wanted to do something about the street, but I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do this project. Anyway, so this is the Belvedere Hotel again, yeah. So that's this building from a different angle. So Victoria Parade looking down Brunswick. This one here is actually that angle there. So drawn from, I think I was sitting in these steps here, drawing across there. This is the Australian Catholic University on the right-hand side. It's actually got these really bright murals on the outside, so I do want to add colour later on. You can see, oh, there's our little post office there. And you can see there's the Housing Commission flats here. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle them in my streetscape aspect because they are so tall. So I've got to work out that, but I don't want to leave them out either. Anyway, long, long, long street. This could take me many, many decades. This is outside the French Creperie on Gertrude Street, right at the corner though. This is Brunswick Street along here, and this is the tram lines. And look, Melbourne isn't Melbourne without all these tram lines making a big tangle all over the place. And you can see here, there's the telephone box. That is the same one that I've drawn here, but this one I've drawn from the other side looking over here. So it's sort of fun seeing how these all tie together. What was fun about this though too is, like, I really actually find lights interesting, and like these old lampposts I'd never even noticed. I can't tell you how many times I've walked down this street on that corner and never noticed that there were these gorgeous little old lamps and things. So it's really opening my eyes to so many things that I had never seen before. I love it. And even the back of the signs I find interesting. This is from inside the forecourt of Australian Catholic University, where we met for the first few times when we were going to draw, because it was summer, so Australian summer. February was pretty hot out here, and we made our way across. Here's the Belvedere Hotel. It's down on that corner again, so you can see that we were working our way up here. I do like these splotches of bright mural. Then this was one of our very rare rainy Tuesdays. I don't know how we're managing to get such good weather, but we generally do. So we went to a place called the Electra Cafe. Now, yes, the two Fs are intentional. That's what they've got on their card, yet then sometimes it's only got one F, so who knows? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Just another example of quirky Brunswick Street. Anyway, it's a Himalayan cafe. Amazing food that's not Himalayan, but best sticky Himalayan chai. Now, I never knew that such a thing existed, but I had several just to make sure. You can see here we were sitting on a bench and we were looking out underneath the veranda. So this is the inside view of the Victorian lace, the black Victorian lace, looking out onto Brunswick Street, and these are the classic Brunswick Street shops here. There's a little combi van that stopped just as I was about to finish up, and then they went, of course. So just as well I didn't have much room. This was really hard, these things, but then I got easier once I used my big brush and cheated. So this is actually in Brunswick Street, but just marginally around the corner. This is a place, I think it's Argentinian cafe called Sonido. We had empanadas, and I love the little tiny square sort of window panes, and this is the reflection of the tree sitting outside. I often walk past this on the other side of the road, and they've got these amazing floral umbrellas and the reflection of everything. It's just so beautiful. This is on the other side, on the east side of Gertrude Street. There's the Workers' Hotel here. So this is Brunswick Street running across like that. This is at a fabulous little Vietnamese cafe called Auntie May's, and we've been there many times now. Great banh mi's, great soups and things for very little. And this was a day, Rob Candy, who's a fantastic watercolourist, he introduced us to this place first. So Alf and Rob were here. Alf, I'm not sure if I've said already, has been the most amazing support. He is my biggest support, who's been joining me almost every single Tuesday this year, and it's gives me a poke on a Sunday night or a Monday just to make sure that I'm going and that I'm organised and that I've put my post up on Melbourne Urban Sketches to tell people where I am, and makes such a difference having that company. This is more Auntie May's now I'm beginning to wonder which one I've actually spelt wrong, because so clearly I've got it, well, one of them's wrong. Who knows? Anyway, this is from sort of further in the back, looking out. You can see the lace again there, so you're looking out through the windows. And this is even further out the back when Alf and I stopped by and had this amazing pumpkin soup, which I have not done justice to, and it needs to have a little swirly whiteness in there. You can see my rainbow pencil case though, and my pop-up cup. Lucky bamboo, great soup with their Turkish bread. Here's the famous Elf. My apologies, I am trying to learn to do portraits. A long way to go yet, it's not really my thing. Oh, I mean, I've done the slow portraits, but sketching portraits is a whole other thing. Anyway, this day we met at a place called Attaboy, and a lady called Lisa joined us. And I just loved this over-the-top, bright sort of mural-y thing outside this shop. But we were still sitting in this really comfy spot under cover, so in shade, and it was April, so pretty sunny and hot, or hot-ish. And then this is Brunswick Street here with all the classic, and of course the bikes and the motorbikes and the people and things. So, and more tram lines. This is sitting outside the Black Cat on a day which was freezing. A different Lisa joined me this day, and she was all rugged up, and from that day I went and bought a puffy jacket so that I wouldn't freeze to death for the rest of the winter. Anyway, this is this amazing florist shop. For as long as I can remember that we've been going up and down the tram, they've had these fantastic sort of sunflowers and this, I call it a triffid. I have no idea what the real name, well, if there's a real name for it, but a flower sort of monster thing, and then they've got big bees on here. And we used to always, when the kids were little, we were catching the tram, you know, trying to occupy little kids, would be saying, okay, spot the triffid, spot the big bees, spot the record on the outside of shops, spot the Cupid sign and those sorts of things. So yeah, this is part of something that my family has grown up. Yes, there's a speed limit, and once again these beautiful buildings from the 1800s. This is inside the Black Cat, so it became freezing. It was a very windy day that day. Lisa and I went inside, made ourselves comfy on these couches out here, and had their brilliant toasties. Look, this is not my normal sort of colour scheme. I'm a very rainbow person, but I love their colours. That they have these sort of olivey, bright greens and mustards and reds and things. So they're fantastic, and there's just so much to draw in here. And look at all the stickers on here and the turntable and everything, because they have music nights and things. It's just beautiful, and people coming in and having French conversation, and it's just lovely. It's sort of homey, but in a much tighter, eclectic way. This is a mirror, and that was reflecting the view outside in the Brunswick Street there. This was a day when Alf and one of the Lisas came and joined us, and we went up to the top of the provincial rooftop bar. I'd never been up there before. In fact, I hadn't even known it existed until I started doing research for these lunches. So, lovely day, and we sat, and we were right on the corner of Johnson Street and Brunswick Street. So that's Johnson Street going down there, and this building's on the corner. And I know, yes, I have drawn it wavy and wonky. However, it actually is pretty much like that in real life, and they're not even. These are not in the middle of where they should be. You know, it's quite funny, and bizarre colour scheme: green and yellow and pink and red, and I don't know, more Brunswick Street. This is the top of, I think that's Naked for Satin, the cafe up there. This is inside the Workers Club. So we had a pretty big turnout this week. So this was Elf came and Rob, Candy, who's a watercolourist. We had Jill join us for the first time. We had Kelly, and we had Jam. And Jam went off to be drawing in Paris not long after. So it was great to have her sort of inspired to keep going and meeting up with other people. So I'm trying my faces. So apologies to Jill with your beanie, and just trying to get that sort of hipster beard thing. Beards are good because they make it, you don't really have to draw a chin in. Yes. Quite like the idea of looking out the window, but I didn't get that sort of detail. I like the posters and things, and I like drawing the tiles and stuff. So I got one of those sort of square-ended brushes in the end to make that sort of thing easier. I love turquoises. Okay, not quite Brunswick Street, but I went from here one day to go and support my daughter when she was giving blood for the first time. I was so proud, and I was just drawing her. So proud mum, proud mum. Back to the Workers Club again on another week, and this time, whereas last time we sort of sat over here and looked out, this time we were sitting in a little table in the middle and looking in, and we had Bernard join us for the first time, which was great. I really should have got the barman. Apologies for that. You know, I'm working up to it. I love all the I love detail. I love the little things like the t-shirts on the footy jumpers on the wall and stuff. I think these are the little sorts of things that really bring back memories for me. And have I mentioned their $10 lunch specials? Alpha and I love these because we found that we could actually share one because they're really generous and they're really, really nice. You know, really good burgers with chips, or there's salads if you want to be healthy. They can make things vegan, all sorts of stuff. And just so nice. The staff are just lovely. They were taking photos for us and just really making it pleasant. Really enjoyed it. Back at the Works Club again, this time on the outside because it was a really nice sunny day, and we had this lovely lady called Bhakti who was visiting the area from India, and she was visiting family in South Yarra, and so she walked all the way from there, and beautiful sunny day, maybe not in her context. Anyway, this lady has a face that just lights up the world. I think it's the biggest beaming smile. She's so nice, and it's so nice to have made that connection, which has now gone back, and we're all following each other on Facebook and Instagram. So, you know, another international connection made. Anyway, of course, we're all discussing our paints and pens. We're sitting outside drawing. So this is Brunswick Street here. There's Gertrude Street going across like that. There's our post office sitting here on the corner, which I drew back here when we were sitting outside. So this time we're sitting here. So we're moving around all the different angles of the corner. Cholly also joined us for the first time, so it was lovely to meet her. And look, lots and lots, of course, of the classic Melbourne tram lines. Because how can you have Melbourne without the tram lines and the trams dinging everybody? We have a saying that you're not really Melbourne unless you've been in your car and the trams dinged you to move on. Another day, this time we're up at the Stone Hotel, which is on the corner. It's opposite the Provincial? Hang on, I might be getting... Yeah, no, it's Provincial, on Johnston Street. So we ate our lunch inside. So sorry, Jolly, for your portrait, but she was very kind. I'm learning. My daughter dropped by to eat the other half of my burger that I couldn't fit in. And then afterwards we went and set up these outside tables on Johnston Street, so on the corner. So Brunswick Street's just here, effectively. And we're just looking down Johnston Street. Now, I love this street art. This artist is called Adnate, and he does the most beautiful portraits and sensibly done ones. So, and of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people on the sides of buildings, and also, but just the characters he builds are just beautiful, and the contrast of that on this really interesting building. And is that a Widow's Walk? I'm not quite sure, but anyway, just really interesting combination. Not Brunswick Street, but I was just filling this in one day because we were voting, and regardless of whatever your politics are, I just feel so lucky to be in a country where we have a right to vote, and you know that it can be peaceful and enough to be in, you know, you're eating your democracy sausages at the primary school and things. I think that's just, we're very fortunate for that. This is the palette that I started putting together. I play around a lot with my colours, and this is the palette I decided I would start carrying around on location for this project. So it's a little palette that sits like this. I can't even get it out, I suppose. Look, here it is. There you go. Looks a tad messier now. Anyway, trying to decide on colours when I love rainbows. I've written a blog post about the details of all my colour choices if you're interested in having a look. Just go to helenwildingart.com. So back at the Black Cat, this time outside, beautiful sort of sunny day, and they've got the, even though it's sort of, is it winter? Not quite officially winter there, but under the umbrella, the colour scheme just runs across outside. It's just so beautiful. We were sitting outside under these sort of ivy-covered sort of seating areas and tables outside. You can sort of see inside with the hanging plants and things. This is sort of the view that was reflected in the mirror in the earlier picture that I did. Alf was very funny. He sat down and got his beer and just said, oh, this is the best. Then we had Di Cock joined us for the first time, which was great. She does the most amazing portraits. So this really inspired me to start thinking, I've got to practice. And Cholly and Jill came along too. And even my husband and my daughter dropped by. So this time, chilly day, we shifted up the road to a place called the Fitz, which has a fireplace, which is nice on a very cold, well, you know, in a Melbourne context, a very cold winter's day, or nearly winter. Is it the first? I think it's the 1st of June it starts winter. Anyway, Alf brought us this enormous bowl of chips, which we worked through. There were 3 of us working through this bowl of fantastic chips, and I ate way too many. It was so good. Anyway, we're sort of sitting at this corner table looking out the windows, and there's the view at one side. I really liked this lamppost, and this is what always happens. I was intending to put the whole thing in. It never fits. That happens to me over and over and over again. But, you know, you just go with the flow of what happens. There's the windows there, and there's the well, I made it yellow. Was it yellow? Not quite sure. Not quite, probably that bright, but anyway. Artistic license. This is looking at the other window a little bit later, where there's the Fitz sign, and I really like the old sort of the coppery metal, worn metal feel to it. Also gave me an excuse to sort of play with my watercolours there. And these are getting less fancy as we go up the street, but still I find them really interesting. And I really like windows and things, you know, the sort of the reflections. On that day we had a Japanese lady had joined us earlier in the day to sketch too. So it's been really nice to have so many people drop in and so many new people. This is a place my daughter said, you know, in the interests of getting this right, we really should include the cocktail bars. So she was very good about this. This is a place called Polly's Bar, and outside it only has a sign that says Polly, and it's very, very plain. I think now at the moment you can sort of see these benches in the sort of, this is like an outer room. But for as long, I've been walking past this place for 30 years. Yes, that does give an indication of how old I am. Anyway, all I'd see was this sort of reddish reflection and this one word, Polly. And I have to admit that I did think it was a different kind of establishment, that maybe I was never going to be able to go inside. Turns out it wasn't. I was being unfair. However, I suspect that the people there might actually really like the fact that I was mistaken. Because that's the sort of place it is, that it's sort of over the top and really quirky, and there's really like rich golds and reds and the cocktail bar and the interesting people and staff, and you know, there's sort of, I assume there's like this Victorian over the top, but I'm not, I can't say I'm great on my history. I'll be learning during this process. Anyway, great cocktails, really enjoyed it. Best of all, my daughter Beth, she shouted, finally getting daughter old enough to go to a cocktail bar and buy me the cocktail. Excellent. Okay, and then this is I detoured to Smith Street, which runs parallel to Brunswick Street, so it's about a 5-minute walk away. Place called Grill, which is just a hamburger joint, but healthy hamburgers. Sacrificed myself by having the chips, which I have to say are fantastic, and a burger while I'm drawing it. Chance to use all my turquoises, and I had fun doing these. And apologies to this lady, but I loved her fringe. It had this beautiful, shiny, perfect fringe quality. Oh, it's just gorgeous. Also really like that they have a thing called Local Matters where you get to vote. So when you buy your burger, you get a bottle cap, and you get to choose from 3 different jars that you put it in to vote for money to be given to a local fundraising effort. I think that's a really nice idea. This was the day when we walked up to Radhi's Chai Bar. I may be saying this wrong. I believe it's Hare Krishna restaurant. Vegetarian, really nice, lovely people. We had lady, I believe her name was Ren Hui, and I may be pronouncing that wrong too, visiting from Singapore, and she'd arranged especially to come and join us, which I thought was just so nice that someone is thinking that this is a special thing to join. So, you know, when it started off as a personal project that was just me, and it could have been me just sitting on the street, and it's become something completely different. It's really special. Anyway, there were quite a group of us this time. It was probably 5 or 6, which is, you know, it's a good size. It was a bit crowded downstairs because they don't have a lot of table space, and we like to spread out. So we found there was a room upstairs at the back with this view looking out over the back streets, and also I think there must be Smith Street down here. And there's a really sort of interesting shaped building. I've never seen it before. Anyway, I thought because I like an excuse to use my colours really, to draw the building, the painted buildings out the back and a bit of the roof. But I really like this mural of this lady staring back at me. And afterwards, I was the last one leaving, when everyone else went, I went downstairs and had this great chat with the lady downstairs, and we were talking about sketching and things. And it's just she was giving me some hints for places with really good views in the city and stuff. So, you know, one of those connections that I just really love making. This is a day, it was spitting rain, so we started down the street, but then we walked up to, it's a little French cafe called Bon App Petit Bistro at 193 Brunswick Street. It's opposite the Perseverance Hotel, which is pretty well known. Lots of people have drawn that. We were sitting out under cover, 12 degrees, so for us in Melbourne, that's pretty cold. Only spitting rain at this point, so we could sit out there and still draw. Really wanted to get the umbrella in because I like to have foreground as well as background to sort of show, I don't know, technical terms for it, but I like to show that concept of distance. And once again, all these twirly wires for trams and electricity and all that sort of stuff. I think this is a little bit dull on me, but the building is plain. Mind you, I don't think I did it any favours in my drawing, but look. You know, contrast, that makes that look better, I reckon. Then it started to rain for real, so we moved inside, but, you know, it's gorgeous inside. Look at the bike wheels hanging off the top, and it's lampshades and the vines. True, not true, I'm not sure. I reckon they might be fake, but maybe I'm wrong. There's a bit of variety, so they look realistic. Great staff, hipster barista with bun. It's perfect. So Fitzroy. Great baguettes, great croissants that we were having there for lunch. And once again, staff so nice, and they were letting us take photos of them holding it. So we had little sketchbooks and things, so it's really good. This is a day when Alf and I just walked up the street from our drawing, and for lunch we were just looking sort of indoors, thinking, well, where will we choose to go? We hadn't made a decision. And this place had only opened a week and a half before, explains why we'd never seen it. It's called El Camino Cantina. And look, I love rainbows, and as you can see, have all the perfect colours. These hats were everywhere. So from my point of view, for drawing colour opportunity, fantastic. However, I have to say, not aimed at our generation, obviously. Great tacos though, especially when they were $2 on a Tuesday. Anyway, I was quite pleased with the portrait I did of Di, so I had Alf and Di with me. So maybe a bit of Di is rubbing off on me. I'm hoping. And there's my pencil case. And this is this is yesterday, back at the Black Cat again. My daughter Beth dropped in to see us, so she became fair game to draw. And so were the staff down here, and it was so nice for them that they signed the picture and they let me take a photo of them holding it. But once again, this place has so much adventure. These are sort of like this sort of sculptural wood chippy, wall decoration. I can't quite describe it. I didn't quite do it justice, but hopefully you get the general idea. But this place, this Black Cat, which, you know, back in the 80s and things, it was probably the only cafe around by the sounds of it. And they had a women's art group upstairs. Someone else told me that, because there's this amazing building. So it's a long history of the Black Cat supporting musicians and art and things, and the original owner is an artist. So I've done a few of theirs. So that was inside yesterday, and they were the same. That was behind us, the couch area, and then there's my outside. And then this was outside, so just Out that way. Anyway, hopefully that'll give you an idea. This is where I'm at after 6 months. I'm really, really pleased at how this project is going and how much I've learned, and the great community that is becoming out of it that I wasn't expecting, and it's just so wonderful. And I just want to thank all the other urban sketchers who have helped make that possible, and people who are joining in and coming along and saying hello or sharing their stories or commenting online and things. It's wonderful. Thanks so much.